This is Main Street with Gary Allen. Now, here's Gary.
I must tell you, I get attracted to that song every time I hear it. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Main Street. Gary Allen with you, as I am every Tuesday at 2 p.m. And I want to thank you all for taking a few minutes out of your day to join us. I hope all the members of the Elks that are tuning in, we've got a great show for you today. But before I get to that, I need to thank a few people for allowing me to be on the air. First of all, my executive producer, who you're about to see in just a couple of minutes here, Mr. Rick Del Vecchio, my studio producer, Andres, as well as Elion and Mike from time to time. Michael and Grant Miller at C News Network. Thank you so much for this opportunity on this platform. I appreciate it very much. Our community sponsors, the Japanese Gardens of Miami and the Elks Lodges of South Florida. So I want to thank all of them very, very, very much. We've got a great show for you this afternoon. We've got two very interesting guests. My very first guest of the two is the Elks District Leader, Mr. Jeff Muehlfeld. He's from Lodge 948 and also from Lodge 1676, Miami and Coral Gables. Grant Coordinator, Mr. Rick Del Vecchio. So without further ado, gentlemen, welcome to Main Street.
How you doing, Gary?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Jeff. It's always good to have a former Air Force man on board. At least now I know I'm secure. I know I'm secure. I'm secure in so many ways. I love everything that's going on. How have you guys been? You've been good, Rick. I know I spoke to you earlier this morning. Everything good?
Yep. So far, so good.
That's what the guy said. Jumped off the Empire State Building. So far, so good on every floor. Jeff, we've been doing elk shows now for quite some time. And I'm always fascinated to hear this answer to this question. Rick has already answered it numerous times. We're also going to talk about a magic show that's coming up, by the way, which will be at 1676. And you don't know how hard it is for me not to say 1766 or 17. It really, really is. They got to come up with a new number. Jeff, what was the reason you decided to become an elk?
Actually, I got talked into it by a girlfriend that I was dating at the time. So we started. We were dating and she was a member of the lodge and she had friends that were members of the lodge. And we used to go over there to Miami 948 on Tuesday nights because they had spaghetti night, Italian night. And then after a couple of months, she's going like, well, why don't you join? And I'm like, oh, okay, fine. So I'll join. So that's how I actually, ended up getting involved in the Elks.
Yeah. As a district leader, what is that position? What does it entail, and what are your responsibilities?
Okay, so as a district leader, I just started this January 1st. Our previous district leader, Joe Ortiz, is a past state president, and he was the district leader for 16 years, and he stepped down and recommended that I take over. I have purview over 5 lodges that comprise the South District of the Florida State Elks Association. So you've got the two here in Miami-Dade County, which are Miami 948 and South Miami Coral Gables 1676. But then there are also 3 in Monroe County, in Tavernier, Marathon, and Key West. So I have purview over those lodges. What are my duties? One is to, as I told everybody at one of our district deputy workshops not long ago, my first duty is to make sure that our lodges are stable financially and that they are, outperforming the kind of community outreach programs that we're known for. The second thing is to kind of give them a little bit of a vision of where we want to go as a district in the ensuing years, the next several years.
Where we know about a lot of the programs, and we're going to be discussing those programs as well as the grant programs, the outreach programs for the veterans, which you and I know are very, very close to. Right. And we're going to discuss a lot of the other things, and Rick is going to fill us in on what's going on in his lodge and some of the other lodges. And by the way, some of those lodges in Monroe, I would love to have representatives, and I know Rick will reach out in the coming weeks, and I hope with your help, Jeff, to get the different lodges on in South Florida. We really want people to know about what's going on and to join, to become a member. We often talk about membership and going online, go to your local lodge, talk to different people. and join and become a member and be part of this exciting organization, the Lodges of the Elks, and to help people. But let's talk about what someone gets when they are a member of a lodge. When you join a lodge, what are some of the benefits that one gets from that? Either one of you can answer that.
Go ahead.
Well, okay. So, one of the things that's kind of natural for human beings is to have a kind of an innate desire to be part of something larger than, the silo that they live in, the life that they have. So an Elks Lodge is one of those places you can go to kind of, to start fulfilling that desire, because basically, what are we doing? We're out there in the community. We're in with our fellow members in our lodges, and we're helping, right? We're doing things to make our lodges better. We're doing things to help our community. We're doing outreach programs for kids and veterans, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So the idea here is that, we have an opportunity to do something to make a difference in people's lives. And an Elks Lodge is a great vehicle for doing that.
Yeah, it is. Go ahead, Rick.
Well, as Jeff pointed out, he joined through a girlfriend, through a social gathering. I was the same way. Our Magic Club needed a place to meet, and Jim Progress, who was a member, says, why don't we meet at the Elks Lodge? So 15 years ago, we started. And now, as an officer of the Magic Club, I said to the other officers, we should join the Elks just to show support. And that's all we did. We just paid our dues. And for the first year or so, that's it. But then, I don't know if this happened to Jeff, but a good member, John Sorgi, who's no longer with us, a great member of our lodge, he asked me to be an officer. And I said, listen, I'm busy at work. I run a business, and I don't have the time. Well, how about a trustee? They don't do anything. only come to a meeting twice a month. Yeah, okay. And he started reeling in. And then you get involved. And, over the years, and I think this is true. I can't speak for all the Elks. There's over 1 million of them. But with me, that's how it got started. I think some others will tell you the same story. And then you get involved. And we'll talk about all the programs. And again, if people are watching who are not Elks, listen to the whole show, because it's not all work. We do have a lot of fun, and we have a lot of benefits at these lodges. It's a two-way street, but a lot of people join for the benefits of being a member, as far as the karaoke, the Friday night dinners, the spaghetti dinners, the dances they have, the charity balls. But then once you get in, you hope that at least 10 to 15% of your members will volunteer. And that's not what you can hope from any organization, to do all the heavy lifting. And it's that heavy lifting that keeps us going.
Sure.
Yeah.
And again, my situation, Gary, and I've talked to this, Jeff, as much as I've done at the Elks, I've got more out of it just for the fact that it gives me and my wife a place to go.
That's the key, I think, to anything that you join. You get the satisfaction of reaching out into your community. In this case, with me, and I'm sure with Jeff, it's the veterans, helping the veterans and acclimating them back into society. But it's more, it's like that old saying, and I forget who said it: you get more out of giving than you do receiving.
Right.
Yeah. It does something to you inside that makes you feel sort of complete. And Jeff, you can speak to this as well as I can. Our pay wasn't much in the military, but it wasn't much. But we had a sense of accomplishment. We had a sense of camaraderie. We had a sense of accomplishing something for the benefit of the overall good instead of just the individual. And I think, Rick, that's what you're speaking to, that the Elks performed that so brilliantly. And that's what attracted me, besides the fact that you are a member of the Elks and you convinced me to become a member of the Elks, which we're still working on that because I'm up here in Palm Bay, but we're working on that. Huh?
We could swear you in online.
We can swear me in. Jeff will swear me in. But
I'll drive up. I don't care. I'm retired now, so I can go, man.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, it's a great organization, and it's one of the many things I'm looking forward to in the future, continuing on my relationship with that. Let's before we go on to that, I also want to mention that Rick Del Vecchio is also the president of the Japanese Gardens of Miami, and there's a lot of good things going on there, and it works in with the Elks too, because you've held events at the lodge doing with the Japanese garden. So talk about that for a few minutes, would you, Rick?
Well, real quick, because it's timely. This Sunday, May 8th, Mother's Day, we have a free festival. And we usually get anywhere from 500 to 800 people show up.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great day to bring a family because all the ladies, even if they're not a mother, they get a free flower. And then we have, mostly for the women, but men do it too, the ikebana demonstrations throughout the day if you want to learn the art of Japanese art of flower arrangement. We have the taiko drummers 3 times throughout the day. We've got a student from FIU who won a national speech contest. Now it's a speech about, it's in Japanese, but we have the English translation in the program, and she'll give her speech in Japanese. The Council General of Japan will be there to greet everybody.
Nice.
Hopefully Ken Russell will make it, Commissioner Russell. And, you know, it's a great event and it's free. There are optionals. There's a tea ceremony. That's optional. That's $10. You want to go to that? It's great. It's a tea ceremony where you get tea and sweets for $10, but it's a nice ceremony. It's about 30 minutes. You can get those tickets online. We have a sushi demonstration, and we have an artist named Kaisen. She's a Japanese artist that does Japanese calligraphy on a mural that fills the stage. So she's going to do that on stage, and we'll be hanging that up in the park. So, and you know, like I said, it's a free event. A cheap date for the husbands that want to take the whole family out somewhere and have a whole day of entertainment.
Yeah. You bring up the tea ceremony, and that brings up a quick story on my part. Jeff, I was AWOL coming back from Japan when I was in Vietnam, and I was in a certain home, and I was there for 10 days, and I was getting the tea ceremony and being bathed every day by these beautiful young Japanese women. And my sergeant, who eventually took me out of the brig, and I didn't serve very long because they needed pilots on the line right away. He said, if next time you go and it's worth it, you take me with you.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, folks, go to the Japanese garden. This is right there on Watson Island, I believe, is it not? Right. For people who don't know,
Right.
And
Jungle Island.
Jungle Island, and there's a lot of expansion going to be going on over the next couple of years, which we'll talk about in upcoming shows. And we're going to try to get the commissioner on if we can to talk about these things. But it's an exciting thing to do for the weekend. Take your family, take your friends. It's a very exciting place, and wonderful, wonderful people are our Asian friends. So I just wanted to get that kind of out of the way. And also, we're going to talk about on Sunday, June 19th, next month, there's an exciting event going on at the Lodge, which my dear friend Ricky D is going to be performing. I don't know who that is, but he's going to be performing some magic, and we'll get to that in a little bit. Maybe he'll do some karaoke at the same time. I want to remind everybody you're watching Mainstreet. Gary Allen with you this afternoon. I have 2 very exciting guests, Mr. Rick Del Vecchio and also Mr. Jeff Muehlfeld. Yeah, I knew I was going to get that wrong at some point or another. He's the district leader for the Elks in South Florida. I try to go by it as quickly as I can. There are a lot of programs. There's a lot of programs that the Elks are part of, and of course the veterans, as we know, Captain LaRocca, Jocko is always involved with all that. Thank you, Rick. What do you see? What would you like to do, Jeff, as a district leader, to improve those relations between the Elks and the VA and the veterans in South Florida to make it even more wonderful for our veterans coming home who need help and their families?
Okay, so in reality, we're already doing some of that. Miami 948 is scheduling for a veterans job fair in the near future, a couple of months. Last year, or 2 years, I guess March 2021, we donated $7,000 to Veterans Ocean Adventures, and the Veterans Ocean Adventures takes veterans that have some disabilities, maybe PTSD, maybe even a physical disability, but he'll take them out and teach them how to scuba dive. He'll take them out and teach them, how to paddleboard, or get in a kayak, or Veterans on the Water. It's another program down at our Florida Keys Lodge in Tavernier. They have Vets on the Water program. They've got grants for that as well. So we're already engaged in the idea of bringing veterans, the help and the support that they need.
Yeah.
Now, many of the lodges will sponsor, VA, VA bound veterans. We haven't been able to do it for the last couple of years because of the pandemic, but
of course,
as this eases, then, and traditionally, we would have them come to, some of the lodges would have them come to their lodge for like a Thanksgiving style dinner right around Veterans Day. And, we would have like bingo games for them afterwards and, some kind of social activity.
Right.
So we've been involved in this quite a bit. We've been able to, in the past, we've had JROTC kids from some of the high schools come over and help us out. We've had people from Southern Command come in and help us out with these veterans fairs.
Cool.
So the pandemic put a big stop on a lot of that stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's not like we weren't already doing these things. So now that we're apparently coming out of this pandemic, then as things loosen up a little bit and as we're able to get back involved in this, we'll start reaching out and start doing these things again, and we'll start doing a little more hands-on stuff. And that's really where we're at right now.
Jeff, will you do me a promise right here on the air, please?
Sure.
Would you work with that gentleman sitting next to you, my big brother, and let's get some of these people on from these lodges around South Florida and Monroe County, and get some of these veterans that can come on and talk about what the benefits for the Elks have been doing, because well, Jeff, you know what it was like for you when I know now I came home from a combat situation. We need to reach out to our veterans. We're going to try to do some things in the upcoming months. Rick and you can talk about that when we're off the air, but we've got some exciting things coming on for our lodge. I say our lodge. I'm not even a member yet, but I classify. Debbie says I can call it our lodge, but I just want to see better improvement for our veterans and their families in education and given an opportunity, because I've always been a believer, and Rick knows how I feel about this. They call upon us to serve our country. And then when it comes time for us to need their help, if it wasn't for groups like the veterans and for the VFW and other organizations, largely would be forgotten. True?
I think so. I think in many cases that could be true.
And I think that's another part of being a member of the Elks, is you get the gratification of knowing you're helping a hero.
Yeah.
You're helping a hero.
Yeah, we do other things at lodge levels too that people aren't really necessarily aware of. So, for instance, most lodges will have a bin somewhere where they're collecting toiletries or socks and underwear and stuff like that, and they'll take them down to the veterans homeless shelter, right? So we do that all the time. We buy the $10 McDonald's gift cards for these guys, 25 at a time kind of thing, right? And we're out raising money amongst our own members to go finance this kind of stuff, right? Our own members are actually donating these items. We've had lodges that have adopted military units. Years ago, 15 years ago, the first time that I was the president of my lodge, we adopted a unit that went to Iraq during the Iraq War. And one of the kids that was in the unit, he was a kid at the time, he was 22 years old, and he was a member of our lodge. But we adopted that entire unit, and we started sending care packages to him, overseas. So, we're pretty involved in this stuff. We can get more involved. There's no question. Now that we're in a situation where we've got veterans coming back and they have these issues, it's a little different. It's a little different directive, what they're going to need versus what they needed when they were, deployed on active duty. So now the focus is going to move in that direction. The Florida State Elks Association has a fund called the Army of Hope, and that provides some financial relief for these veterans and even active military that are deployed when they have some temporary financial problems. So we can give them some bridge in their grants. They're not loans, they're grants. We'll be, if you can't pay your light bill, you know what, we can take care of that for you. If your refrigerator breaks, we can take care of the repair, that kind of stuff.
So,
programs.
It's interesting you talk about that. when a man or a woman gets deployed and they're married and have a family, it's not just that individual that's deployed that
It's the
needs
family.
help. It's the family that's back here.
You bet.
Yeah.
You bet.
I mean,
So-
the often forgot real heroes are the families that are left behind. I mean, nothing makes me cry more than when I watch Facebook or something on the news and I see a veteran returning from home and surprises his family and his children.
Yeah.
It tears your heart apart, Jeff.
It does.
It just tears your heart apart. I mean, I remember when I came home from my second tour of duty in Vietnam, and I flew into Oakland like we all did,
Right.
and called up my dad, and he just happened to answer the phone, and he said, "Get your butt over to the Eastern Airlines terminal in San Francisco. I'll make sure there's a ticket there for you. You get into Fort Lauderdale, call me, and your Uncle Harris or I will come and get you." This is around Thanksgiving time.
Oh,
Okay.
man.
My
Right.
mother had no idea I was on my way home. She had not a clue. And to make a long story short, my dad came and got me at the airport. He made some excuse. He had to go and do something. He brought me home. He opened up the side door of our garage. I walked in the door, and there my mom was in the kitchen cooking with my sisters. And I opened up the door, and there was an old saying my father used to have. I have nothing but 9 boarders in my house, meaning all the kids.
Mhm.
And I opened the door, and there was my mother. And it chokes me up right now to think about it. And I looked at her. I looked and I said, "Hey, do you have room for one more star boarder?" And she turned around and she fainted. And then we picked her up and she was crying. And it just to this day, it was like the greatest gift God ever gave me was being home.
Right.
It's just beautiful. It's just beautiful. Let's talk a little bit because you mentioned about a 22-year-old that went off to war in the Middle East, about the children's programs that the Elks have.
Right.
Both of you gentlemen can talk about these programs, the Nationwide Elks, the drug awareness programs, the scholarships, and the hoop shot. Talk about that if you could, gentlemen.
Okay. Well, the Hoop Shoot, it's a national program that starts off obviously at the level at each lodge. And each lodge has an opportunity to recruit children. Is it between 9 and 18, 9 and 13?
8 and 13.
8 and 13.
Right.
And then there's a finals, who wins the lodge, then it goes to the district, then from district to state, from state to national. And it's a great event that's been going on for how long, Jeff?
So 1960, started out in Oregon, or Oregon, as they like to say.
Yeah.
Oregon. It's been going on since 1960, and it's a free throw shooting contest for these kids. And nationally, we get about 3 million kids every year that join up and get involved. And it starts at the local level. But by the time it's all said and done, it percolates down to 72 kids that go to Chicago for the finals in April. And that just happened over this past weekend. Yeah. So.
And what do they get? They get a scholarship out of it. They get.
Well, they get a ton of prestige. The winners get their names inscribed at the National Basketball Hall of Fame in Springfield, Massachusetts.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and for anybody who knows who Steve Alford is, he was a past winner, and he played at Indiana University under Bobby Knight, and then ended up in the NBA for a while, and then went back and coached it at Indiana himself. So, the thing is, what's so great about the program is that it teaches a couple of different things. It teaches some sportsmanship for one. It teaches absolute perseverance. Set your mind to a goal and try and achieve it. And maybe the greatest thing that it teaches is for the ones who don't win, because they'll realize that the sun's going to come up tomorrow. They may not realize it until the sun comes up tomorrow. Or they'll realize that, there's a little bowl of ice cream for them, after the thing's over with, and life is good. It's okay. You may not have won, but life didn't end. So, it teaches them these kinds of values and how to handle not only winning, but also how to handle defeat.
Yeah.
It's a terrific program.
Yeah. I've always been a firm believer in, through sports comes a lot of values that you can take with you through life.
Oh, sure.
And absolutely. But what about the drug awareness programs? That's a problem that we have throughout this country in one form or another. And it's not just adults, it's children. It's people who get addicted because of doctors pushing pills on them that they really don't need. So talk about the drug awareness program and the benefits coming from that, from someone who gets involved, and how it's helping our communities.
All right. So the drug awareness program that we've got out there has a couple of things that we're trying to do. We have, Red Ribbon. We have a Red Ribbon Week in October, and October is our drug awareness month for the Elks. And the idea is that we're going to go out with these red ribbons, and pass them out to as many kids as we can. Really, the target audience for us is middle schoolers, because we're really trying to affect the way that they look at this. Peer pressure is a big deal. It can put people in a difficult position if they don't think there's any other avenue for them to go down. So we've got those red ribbon campaigns, and we can get out in the schools if they'll let us. It's been more and more difficult with the public schools for various reasons, but having said that, years ago, we also the Elks National Foundation and the Grand Lodge partnered with Marvel Comics, Stan Lee, our buddy Stan Lee.
Wow.
And they actually produced an elk specific comic book with our mascot, Elroy the Elk, our drug awareness mascot, Elroy the Elk.
Elroy.
And they created a comic book, an actual comic book. And
wow.
it was directed at 5th and 6th graders mainly. And the comic books talked a lot about alcoholism, alcohol and tobacco use at that age, to try and, give kids of that age, a little something else to think about rather than, caving into their peer pressure. So we've got those kinds of things going on with the drug awareness program.
Boy, they're growing up so fast nowadays. 5th and 6th grade.
Oh, yeah.
The biggest thing I worried about was, will the Phillies win? And which they don't ever. And
no, they got beat again. Yeah.
they just to be a Philly fan is to truly go through the agony of defeat. I want to tell you. I just want to remind everybody you're watching Main Street. Gary Allen with you, along with two very wonderful guests this afternoon, Mr. Jeff Muehlfeld, who is the district leader for the Elks in South Florida, and Mr. Rick Del Vecchio from the Coral Gables 1676, and from 948. Did I get that right finally?
You did.
Yeah, you got it right.
You did.
Got it right.
Proud of you.
My God, an old dog can learn new tricks every now and then. Rick, I know that you take part in a lot of the grant programs. You've been writing some grants. You're writing a grant now for something to do with the Elks and the zoo. But talk about the different grants that you participate in and the Elks organizations in South Florida participate in.
Yeah, the Elks National Foundation has several grant programs, and the last one the one I'm presently trying to get is called the Focus Grant, and that's specific to cities that have big veterans population, and Miami is one of them.
Yep.
And that's $10,000, and I've been working with the folks at the Elks National Foundation to fine tune this so we can get as much money as possible. And as you mentioned, what we're looking at doing is having a day at the Metro Zoo, Zoo Miami, they call it now,
right,
for the veterans, and maybe up to 100 veterans go there and have a barbecue lunch for them. Plus, they get to, tour the zoo.
Yeah.
But the Elks are all for that, but they also want some smaller events leading up to it. And there, I'm working with Michelle Zielinski from the Women's VA and Anna Guerrera from the Veterans Administration, as well as Chris Cohen from the PTSD Center.
Right.
And they are opening up. I found out now that we can do events at some of the facilities. So that's what we're trying to figure out, where we can do some smaller event. When I say smaller, we have no idea how many folks are going to be there, but we may do one, I think there's a place in Doral where they have a little center where we could perform and do some magic and bring some gifts and gift cards, underwear, clothing, toiletries and such. And we want to try to help as many veterans out as we can with that grant. And we're getting close to sealing the deal and getting that done. And the grant we did, and the grant was opened up for this year, April 1st.
Right.
Last year, toward the end of the year, I was able to get a spotlight and a beacon grant combination, which was $5,500. And we had a nice barbecue. That was done jointly with Lodge 948.
Yep.
And we had a great turnout. We had over 125 people show up. I think it was about 80 veterans. And then the rest were volunteers, Elks, cooking hamburgers, hot dogs, entertaining. It was really a nice event. We had a band that opened up by playing the theme from every branch in the military, the Marine Corps, Army, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard. We did have one for the space program, though. But
they don't have one yet.
They don't have one yet.
Yeah.
Do you want to know something? Do you know how many members of the Space Force there are?
I think he said
12.
72 or something like that.
Not very many.
There's 100 of them, and they're right up here at the Cape, and that's the only place they are. That's the only place they are. They supposedly during the NFL draft had a member of the Space Force on stage when they were saluting the military. And I'll be honest with you, all I saw was 2 guys from the Air Force, 2 from the Marine Corps, the Army, the Navy, the Coast Guard. They're supposed to have special uniforms. I have no clue. I've talked to, there's a veteran that lives, not a veteran, but a guy who's active duty Air Force living in my complex. And I said, have you seen any of these people? He said, Gary, I wouldn't know them if I fell over them. He said, if they're there, they're there. He said, they're well hidden, that's for sure. So something like that.
Yeah, they're going to get Star Trek uniforms. That's the deal, man.
Oh, God. No, please. Oh, God. Anyway. But that's one of the reasons why I guess I'm going to have to come home at least for a couple of days when we do the thing at the zoo, and I do want to do that. So maybe if we can get all the different lodges together, Rick, and help us out with this program, and we can even make it bigger and better than it is with contributions from the Elks themselves, as well as veterans and stuff, and make this huge, because God only knows we need to get, like when the veterans go up to Washington, D.C. to see the Veterans Memorial, we need to do something in South Florida for our South Florida veterans, especially if you can't get on an airplane and go to Washington, D.C.
Well, Fred Jocka, he's been on. He's doing that. He's been up there several times as a chaperone, and we're trying to raise funds because the veteran goes for free, but the chaperone has to pay for the airfare. So we're looking to raise funds so we can send chaperones with these veterans and do it more often. But we are working on it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, but you can never do enough for a veteran, right, Jeff?
Yeah, true enough.
I mean, you just cannot. Let's talk about the welcome home kits also for veterans, Rick. I know you as the former president of your lodge before Debbie came in there, and congratulations to her. This is her, second term as president of Yeah, she does a wonderful job there. And I know the new fiscal year has it begun already in May?
April 1st.
April 1st.
Oh, April 1st. Okay. What a day, April 1st of all days. But talk about the welcome home kits, not only for 1676, but for 948, and how wonderful and helpful that is for our vets.
Yeah, what we do, we have to work with the VA to find veterans that have been homeless and just recently were brought into a home, whether it's an apartment or assisted living facility, whatever. And what it is, the welcome kit comes from the National Foundation. They give you $400 up to $500 if part of the purchase is a bed, and it's to purchase items like toasters, anything they need, furniture, toasters, appliances, to try to fill the house so they can, live a normal life.
All right, pots and pans, dishes, silverware, all that kind of stuff.
And how do you find out about who needs it? Is it through the VA that you guys get the note that, hey, so and so needs your help?
Yeah, and they'll tell us who was recently moved into an apartment or a house, and those are the folks that we target. So,
that's absolutely fantastic. And I'm sure Fred, Captain Jocka, gets involved very much.
Yeah, he's sort of our area liaison for the veterans. He does a great job.
Oh yeah, he loves to be called Captain too. I know that. That. I called him Fred once. He said, "No, it's Captain. It's Captain. It's Captain." How does the local lodges all throughout Florida work with the National Lodge on events throughout the year? You mentioned down in Key West they do swimming with the and paddle boarding and things like that for rehabilitation.
Right.
How do you work with the National lodges throughout the country, up in Chicago, New York, Pennsylvania, etc. Do you guys work at all with them on events, crossovers, or get ideas from them as the year goes through?
We do. We don't necessarily work with them. What happens is that we'll apply for grants from Chicago, which is where our national headquarters is. So we'll apply for grants, and we will specify what the event's going to be, who's going, who it is that we're targeting to benefit from that event, what it is that we plan to do, what our plans are for the event, and then submit those grants. And if we get approved, then they'll give us the money. Now, we'll then schedule the event, perform the event, and afterwards we have to make a report about the event and send it back to the Grand Lodge so that we close the circle. And obviously, we'll want to take pictures, names, putting names on the pictures. The Grand Lodge loves to have names. Sometimes it's a little bit of a difficult thing because of privacy concerns, so we're not always able to do that.
Yeah.
But that's how we work with the national. That's how the local lodges work with the national. Now, having said that, Rick was talking about the Beacon grant that they got, and we got a Beacon grant last year too. And once we got the Beacon grant, it was a $3,500 grant, and it was for ours. Was split into two. We had two different things that we were doing. They were geared towards education, but one of them was for a school that specializes in teaching special needs autistic kids. They needed and wanted to get a 15-passenger van so that they could take their kids on field trips. So we got a $3,500 Beacon grant for that, and then the Florida State Elks Association kicked in with a matching grant.
Wow.
So we were able to get $7,000 just for that one school. And then we had another $5,500 grant that we got for a different, a different program and a different group that we knew about that needed some of our help. So this is how we go about reaching out in our community and doing things and, kind of fulfilling that impetus that we've got to go out and help our community.
Do you find that when you reach out to members of the community, the business world, that maybe aren't familiar with the Elks, but you explain the mission, what you're trying to accomplish, you find out that they're all in, that yeah, hey, count me in on this?
Well, I can tell you that they're usually pretty surprised. Like, I never knew that you guys did it. I never knew anything about that.
Yeah.
I had no idea the Elks did that stuff.
Right.
That's what we get a lot of. So, but then trying to get them on board and saying, well, can you, donate something, then it's a little different story. then you got to put on your salesman's cap and go at them, and say, hey, how about this? So,
well, that's why programs like this and what we hope to be doing in the future will help unlock some of that unknown knowledge that is going on and what is happening. I want to talk, Rick, and with you, Jeff, about the scholarship programs for the members of the Elks and their families, and how that helps them. Because I know that if an elk is passed away or is suddenly becomes disabled or unable to work, that there are scholarship programs for members of their families to go to college. Talk about those programs, would you? Because that's also an added benefit of joining the Elks. And before we go too far, would you remind people how they can become members of the Elks? Either one of you gentlemen want to explain that, please do.
Well, in fairness, because the show can be seen worldwide or nationwide, you have to be an American citizen and believe in God. Other than that, if you go to elks.org, that's the national website, and you type in your zip code, it'll show you the closest Elks Lodge to you, and you could go there, and I'm sure they'll be happy to greet you and show you the lodge and help you become a member. It's that easy, and we're always looking for members, because let's face it, as Jeff will attest, and a lot of lodges, whether it's the Elks, the Rotary, the Kiwanis, you get a lot of folks that are up there in age. We're getting old. When I joined 15 years ago, I was 55, and they called me the kid. So the average age of an elk is up there, and we've luckily, and I know 948's gotten a lot of younger members, and we've got a few,
Right.
and we got to get young folks to join. And one of the problems I think, and it didn't happen with me because I became an elk late in life. Like I said, when I was 55. But I remember my Magic Club years ago. We met at the Polish American Club, and they had membership issues. And I asked the guy who was the president, I said, "Why do you think that is?" Because I could tell you exactly why. Now, this is the Polish American Club. It may be different with the Elks, but he says, when we were members, we, the parents, we would get babysitters to keep the kids at home, so we'd have a night out to go out and dance and go to a dinner. So when the kids became old enough to join, they said, "Why do I want to join that club? You never wanted me to go there when I was younger," and they never included the family.
Yeah.
And I think that might be part of it. I mean, let's face it, we all need a break from all our kids are precious and well behaved, but I could see that happening with the Elks or anybody. You go out, you want to have a nice dinner with your wife and have the babysitter home, and the kids feel left out. Now, I knew the Elks have a youth program, which it's called the Antlers, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I know so much about it. I had to confirm what it's called with Jeff, but I honestly don't go hunting for children. I mean, it's tough. I mean, but we do encourage young people to join and getting interested as well as us older folks. We need younger folks because after we're gone, who's going to be there to take over?
Right.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's nothing worse than watching something die out. Before we go too far, I want to bring up the event, the magic event that's going on June 19th, which will be at Lodge 1676. And Mr. Ricky D is going to be, are you the MC, Rick, or are you not?
No, I don't go on stage, Gare. My specialty is close-up magic, so I'll work in the bar for two reasons. One, I'd say my close-up magic, and two, the drinks are right there. but it is a family event, by the way. And
Jeff, he isn't my brother for a reason. I mean, he and Dean Martin.
I mentioned at the beginning, I don't want people to think all we do is you join the Elks and you got to work and volunteer. There is fun to it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the organization, the international organization on the magic end is International Brotherhood of Magicians. This is their 100th anniversary.
Oh, nice.
Last year, our Elks Lodge celebrated their 75th anniversary, and it just so happened that our local magic club, Ring 45, also celebrated their 75th anniversary. So I was able to write a grant to get some money to put that magic show on last year. And this year I wrote another arts grant for this year, and I got another $1,200, I think, which is great because without it, I can't do it. I can't bring. Without the grant, you'd be looking at Rick Del Vecchio on stage. With the grant, I'm bringing an act from Las Vegas, so that's the difference.
Nice.
Nice.
And having been an opening act in Las Vegas, I can tell you there is a difference between my good buddy, my brother Ricky, who you're not going to do karaoke, are you?
No, not at that event. No. That's second and fourth Saturday at our lodge, and the first and third at Lodge 948.
Which reminds me, Jeff, before we I want Rick to finish up. How do people get tickets? How do they find out about this? Where do they go online to find out about the show in June?
Okay, they can go to elks1676.com, and I believe it's / I'll figure it out, or they could just call me 305-992-0703.
And tickets are $15. There's also going to be
let's back up. That's okay. That's the Sunday show. There's two shows. There's a Saturday on the 18th is the big show.
Okay.
That's a dinner show for $55. And that gets the people into the Florida Lounge for hors d'oeuvres and close-up magic. Then there's that's from 6 to 7, then 7 o'clock dinner. We have a dinner from 7 to 8, and then the show is at 8 o'clock in the Grand Ballroom. So that's $55 a person, and that's what they get. Now on Sunday, if they just want to go to that, it's $15, but if they pay $5 more, they can go to both. However, on Sunday, we're reserving 100 tickets for young children that don't have the money to attend. It's free. And we work through a couple of nonprofits to get that audience. Branches, who rents from us, is a 501c3. They have a daycare, an after-school program for children at our lodge during the day, and they'll reach out to members of their organization to give some of these tickets away. We have Pulse Church that also deals with underprivileged children. So we'll have 60 to 100 underprivileged kids and their families on Sunday for that free show in the afternoon. And that's a 1-hour lecture on the history of magic, followed by a 1-hour show. And that's free of charge and be very entertaining. And that's on Sunday afternoon from 3 to 5.
Who are some of the magicians that you're bringing in from Viva Las Wages?
The headliner is a fellow named Rudy Kobe. If you Google him, you'll see he had a TV special. I believe it was on NBC, where he's called Rudy Kobe, the coolest magician on earth, and also Mr. Labman. And there's a lot of video on YouTube about it. If you check it out, Rudy Kobe, Koby. And then Anna Rose, who also performs out in Vegas. She's a hypnotist and a comedy hypnotist and mentalist, comic, and she's fantastic. Very easy on the eye. She's a beautiful young lady. Yes. And then from West Palm Beach, yeah, you've seen the pictures. From West Palm Beach, we have Mr. A. Mr. A is a ventriloquist. He's a magician and a ventriloquist, but whenever him do his vent act, he's hilarious, and he's a phenomenal ventriloquist. And some people, if they see him, his picture, he was on several national commercials for PetSmart, I believe it was, as Santa Claus. He is probably one of the best Santa Clauses in the country. His beard is real. It's a big Santa Claus type beard. And he's going to come down. And then we're going to have 1 or 2 surprise acts as well brought in here. But those are the 3 main acts. And
this is going to be June 19th.
June 18th. That's June 18th. On the 19th, we have other magicians that I haven't hired yet. One is Alexander Beersford. He's a mentalist. You know Alexander. He does your voiceover for the opening of the show.
Yes, he does.
And he'll be one of the performers, and I'm working on 1 or 2 others, which I'll know in the next 5 days. I'll start.
And if you go on rickyd52@gmail.com or contact him at 305-992-0703, you'll be able to get that going. We'll talk about that as we start getting closer into June. We'll certainly talk about that an awful lot. I want to remind everybody you're watching Main Street. Gary Allen with you, along with Ricky Del Vecchio, my executive producer and also former president of the Elks Lodge, and Mr. Jeff, the district leader. I mean, I don't want to leave that out, Mr. Jeff Muehlfeld, and we're certainly happy and pleased to have you both with me. Next week, I got it again. Good. I can't understand. I must be something wrong with me. Next week, I have a great guest coming on. And I'll talk about that as we get close to the end of the show. Actually, I can bring it up right now, to tell you the truth. Mr. Joe Cassell, he's a former attorney, sports agent, sports broadcaster for Westwood One. He's an old dear friend of mine. We're going to talk a lot about sports with the NFL draft just happening. We're going to talk about all these young men that suddenly become millionaires overnight. Not necessarily true. Anyway, getting back to what we're talking about, the Elks and the Elks organization, I want to thank you all for coming on board and watching us this afternoon, for those of you that are members of the Elks. What are the impact on Beacon grants? Let's talk about that a little bit, if we could, please.
Well, as we spoke about the grants quite a bit, the Beacon grant is, as Jeff says, $3,500, and we can use that for veterans, use it for children, for education, and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But one of the things we'd like to touch on, I think, because it's coming up this summer, is our youth camp.
Right.
Okay. In Umatilla, and it's 405 acres, and it's rated one of the nicest camps in the country. And we send several thousand kids per year.
So yeah, the camp puts like 20,000 kids through there every year. In the summer, there's about 2,500. They have 6 weeks of camp for kids in summer. Normally, the South District, I kind of run that little program of getting the bus and putting it all together and getting the chaperones and all of that. So we'll put a big bus together. We'll get 50 kids. We're going up June 12th this year and coming back June 18th. And, we'll have, about 3 chaperones on the bus to make sure the kids behave a little bit. And but they get to go up to this camp that is like phenomenally great.
That's what I hear.
It has been rated the #1 youth camp in the country. And it is spectacular, and it's expanding. So the kids sleep in air-conditioned cabins. You know, they don't have to sleep out in the woods. You know, there's like 7 kids to a cabin. There's a counselor in training and a counselor that stays with them as well, but they have their own showers and laboratory facilities. They've got a 15,000 square foot pavilion where they have their meals, and they also do crafts. You know, they have crafts that they do in there, and it's a place for them to gather when the weather goes bad. They have an enormous gym that they can play in. They've got 2 Olympic-sized swimming pools, are huge.
Wow.
They've got rock climbing. They've got the ropes courses. They've got, believe it or not, they let them shoot arrows. they let them shoot arrows on the range. They do.
Oh, wow. Okay.
There's a lake there with canoes and paddle boats. I mean, you name it, man, they got it. You know, they're living the life. The only thing that they don't have is their phone.
Right.
They do not have any electronics. They don't allow electronics up there. So the kids, and they come from all over the state, right? The kids between the ages of 9 and 13, they come from all over the state, and they end up getting put in these cabins with people they don't know. And it gets them out of their normal way of doing things and off of the phone, and they start having to relate to people one-to-one.
Like when we grew up and there wasn't cell phones.
Right.
You know, and it's like when you went into basic training in the military, you were with people you never knew before in your life. You know, and you learn different things.
Counselors were as friendly then.
They weren't. But speaking of the military, though, you know, I said there was 6 weeks that were set aside for these kids. There's also week 7, and that is set aside specifically for children of military active duty. They have that week to themselves. So that's another great benefit that we put out there for, you know, our military families. And the cost is like $220 for a week, but we and the Florida Elks will never ever turn any kid away for any financial reasons. So when we put 50 kids on a bus, you know, each lodge gets 10 camperships anyway. So I've got 5 lodges in my district. Guess what? We use them all. So all of these kids, they go there for free, and the parents are like giddy with happiness because it's not costing them anything. No. They get to not see their child for a week. Although what happens is this, and I think it's interesting. When we take the kids up, the kids are all excited, the parents are all excited, right? And the kids are a little bit, I don't want to go. Right? At the end of the week, the kids don't want to come back, and the parents are dying to see their kid again, you know? Yeah, it's funny how that works. But it's true. That's what happens. The kids don't want to go, but then they don't want to leave, you know?
If you'd asked my dad that with 9 children, he would have said, how long can you keep them? You know,
exactly. Keep them all summer.
Listen, just keep them all you want. You know, he wasn't around much anyway. I mean, when you're a pilot for the airlines, you're not around very much anyway to begin with. You know, one of the many things that I love about the Elks, and every time I do a program, and Rick, of course, is always there, is you learn something new and you understand something new. And I'm speaking to the audience now more than I am to Rick and Jeff. Ladies and gentlemen, the Elks are an organization that cares about the communities they live in. They care about the people in those communities, whether you're a veteran or not. And they do so many wonderful things. They're not just during Thanksgiving or Christmas or New Year's or 4th of July or Memorial Day or whatever the case may be of a holiday. They do things for people all the time. There's events going on when you're a member of the Elks. And I'm going to have Rick in the last couple of minutes and Jeff talk about the individual things that go on in their individual lodges as there are in other lodges. There's so many advantages. Giving back to the community you live in, to be a member of the Elks. There's so many wonderful things about it that it's just unbelievable that people aren't joining more often. And I know there's other organizations out there that do fine work as well. But I'm not talking about the Elks right now. So Rick or Jeff, whichever one, talk about what goes on in the evenings at your different clubs. You don't have to say all 7 nights, but if you want to pick out a couple of the top highlights, go ahead.
Well, our lodge is closed on Mondays and Sundays, but on Tuesdays, we are so lucky. We have a jazz band that plays. Jeff Zabak and his band, and these guys are phenomenal. These are professional musicians, and it started out years ago. They called us up. They said, we need a place to practice. Would you mind us practicing? And I'll give credit to Reggie Hernandez, who was the president, the ER back then, the president. He said, yeah, why don't you practice in our lounge on Tuesdays? So they did. And of course, we open the lounge and we sell drinks and we sell food, and people get this great entertainment for free.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you had to pay each band member $100 for the night, it'd be $700-800. We couldn't afford that,
Right.
So that's every Tuesday night we have that. On Wednesdays, we're closed the 1st and 3rd. And then the 2nd and 4th is our meetings, our Elks meetings. And that's just members only. But then on Thursday, we have open mic night, which has been going on for as long as I've been there, at least 15 years, if not longer. And this is, again, you get musicians who play for free, and you could hang out there and listen to this music. And these guys are really great performers. It's unbelievable. Then on Friday, it's a mix of things. We're going to have, coming up in May, Fridays, Fred Jock is going to have a steak dinner night. And the entertainment was food. We'll have food, but the entertainment, the first Friday of the month, we have a comedy club. The second Friday, we have another jazz group that plays, another phenomenal group of gentlemen. Then on the 3rd, we have RB's Big Band. This is a big band that 16 to 17 members, along with Alex, who sings with them now. He joined the band.
Really?
Yeah. They asked him to practice about 6 weeks ago, and he's been going every week to practice. And then last week he did 7 numbers. They called him the next day and said, listen, we all like you. Would you like to join the band? And he's going to be their vocalist now. And he's phenomenal voice.
Cool.
And that's the 3rd Friday of the month. And then the 4th Friday, we have a fella, Brian. I don't know his last name. Brian and Rob and friends, acoustic guitars, and they play for free. And it's great. You hang out, have a drink, have something to eat, and it's a great event. Then on Saturdays, as mentioned, the 1st and 3rd is karaoke at Lodge 948, Miami, which is only an 8-minute drive from our lodge.
Right.
And then we have on the 2nd and 4th karaoke at the South Miami Coral Gables Lodge.
So in other words, when I move home and there's nothing going on at 1676, I can drive over to 948 and say hello to Jeff, and we can sit down and have a couple of beers. By the way, my weird and sick mind, when you said Fred Jocka has a steak night, I had this vision of Fred sitting in the dining room all by himself, having a steak with a camera on him, and people watching Fred Jocka eat. I just had this.
He actually barbecues, just New York strip steaks, and it's fantastic with baked potato. But now that's all our lounge nights. Now, if some people okay, I like that, but now if you like Tai Chi, we have Tai Chi. I think at both lodges. Does Tai Chi still?
No, we don't have it there.
Well, we have Tai Chi that just started up, and if you want to take Tai Chi lessons, you can come and take Tai Chi lessons. Salsa, I know you guys started with salsa again, and on Tuesday nights we have salsa dancing, and these are people that it's an organization. They are members, but then they rent the ballroom from us and they hold dance lessons. And if you're a member, you get a discount. But it's great. And then they also have, you're going to love this, fencing, not hanging a fence, but dueling fencing, like Zorro.
All right.
This is the Miami Fencing Club, and these guys are serious. I mean, they train national champions that go to the Olympics, and they meet on Monday, Wednesday night, and Saturday mornings. That's it. And just stop by the lodge, and you get the schedule of all these great events and things that you can do. And that's what I'm saying. So it's not just work and volunteerism. You can hang out and just have a great time, and we encourage that too, because we need that cash to pay our bills, because like any other business, we got bills to pay. So
Jeff
will bring up the date what's going on at 948.
We're almost out of time, so go ahead, Jeff.
Well, by and large, 948 does mostly the same kinds of things. We have live music on Fridays. Virtually every Friday, we serve dinners. Tuesdays, Wednesdays when we have meetings, which is the first and third Wednesdays of the month, and Thursdays and Fridays and Saturdays. Second or first and third Saturdays of the month, we do the karaoke. The other alternating weekends, they do the karaoke. So we've got those things. Plus, we have special events. Like this past weekend, we had what we called Havana Nights, which was a great dinner and dance for our members at the lodge. And it was part of the inaugural ball celebration that we had for our new officers coming in. So we have events like that from time to time as well.
The guy that put it on is an Emmy Award winner?
One of the guys that, no, not the guy that put this on. That was our leading knight, Arian Gomez. But we do have a member of the lodge, and I'm actually going to go see him on Thursday and do some recording with him. His name is Paul Hoyle, and he is a Latin Grammy winner. And, fantastic. And oh, by the way, I have played. And he performs at our lodge too. And I have played at your open mic night before.
That's right.
And I'm about ready to get started doing that again because it's been a while.
That's fantastic. Gentlemen, we've run out of time. The whole hour is gone and then some. I want to thank the district leader, Mr. Jeff Muehlfeld of Lodge 948. Did I get it again or did I do it?
Yeah, that's okay. You got close.
Close enough.
Muehlfeld, and Mr. Rick Del Vecchio, who's also executive producer of this program. I also want to thank my studio producer, Andres, for being with us, and Michael and Grant Miller for giving us the platform to do this program on. Our community sponsors, the Japanese Gardens of Miami and the Elks Clubs of South Florida. I want to thank all of you very much. Join us next week at 2 p.m. on Tuesday. Joe Casal will be joining us. He is a broadcaster for Westwood One, as well as a former sports agent and attorney. He's off this week to New Orleans for a jazz festival, so we're going to have a lot to talk about when that comes around. Actually, that's not next week. I'm ahead of myself again. I'm way ahead. I have Chris Attore, who will be on, who's a musician. I'm sorry I got ahead of myself for a week because I was thinking of Joe. But we're going to have a great shows coming up for you in the next couple of weeks. Plus, I think we're going to have a very special guest that I can't talk about right now. That will be coming up, an Emmy award-winning, Academy award-winning actor who's an old dear friend of mine. So we're looking forward to that. And I hope all of you enjoyed the program. Until next week at this time at 2 p.m. right here on the C News Network. This is Gary Allen from Main Street. Take care of yourselves and each other.